Can you all hear it?
Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Thank you to that wonderful voice who introduces me so well. We'll just cut down the music. I'm Bonnie D. here today. We have a very special show in honor of Valentine's Day, Valentine's Week, Valentine's Month. I don't care. Find something, somebody to love. Even you just say, I love myself. And that's supposed to be where it all starts, right, panel? We already know that. I have 5 esteemed authors with me today. We're talking about the future of love and romance in sci-fi, in thrillers, in made-up worlds, dystopian, maybe wonderful, maybe scary. I don't know. We're going to find out. I have invited them from all over the world. We've got some from North. We've got some from all over the United States. And I'm really happy to have them here. So I'm going to, and a shout out to Mickey M. in Canada for bringing me several of you, and the others, you know me from previous appearances on the show. So I'm delighted. And we have one newcomer. Barak Engel is with us. We'll find out more about him in a few minutes there. I had to pick on you. So let me introduce with my opening, and let's see, when I call your name, please wave while I do the introduction here. We've already got a live viewer. Hello, whoever you are. There you go. Okay. Welcome, global audience, to Technology Revolution's Glow. Bonnie D., that's me on her Scarlett Mic, your host and guide on the show. The future of love and romance in sci-fi, humans and AI. What? We want to learn. Will people share love with bots? Will they yearn? Love and romance in worlds yet unknown, where AI and humans have truly grown. From circuits to hearts, can passion be real? Do machines learn love or just mimic and feel? Sci-fi's lens lets the future ignite as we dive into love beyond the day and the night. I'm welcoming 5 futurist authors on my Into the Future ride, predicting worlds where such love could abide. Casey Grifant, a child who dreamed of worlds untold, where horror and fantasy took their hold. From sci-fi writer, science writer, to tales so grand, her many stories now enchant the land. A gunslinking hero fights with might through weird west shadows, dark and bright, with Melinda West and horrors vast. Casey's words craft legends that will last. I hope you like that, Casey. I got a nod. Barak Engel is here. A doctor's path Barak Engel left behind for cyber realms of a different kind. To head of security at WebEx he rose, and the first virtual CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, a role he chose. A D&D world took shape in his mind, a novel-born adventure unconfined, with tech and tales both fierce and free. Barak crafts new fates for you and for me. Barak, what'd you think?
Perfect. Can I show this?
You will in a minute when we get to you. You're going to fill in the blanks. Thank you. He's an eager author there. Here we go. Jason, from code to comics and script to prose, Jason Palmatier's words through realms now flow. A future, they're supposed to rhyme, prose and flow. A future bright with stars unfold, where battles rage and fate takes hold. Award-winning tales in anthologies bright. A battletech war, a zombies bite. With every twist, Jason's stories spark a deep journey into the dark. Jason, that was a new one. Did you like it?
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, good. Okay. Here we go. Mark, while others played in snow and sun, Morton read, explored. His quest had begun. From Shakespeare's stage to language lore, his books unlocked the past's closed door. But fiction called, Mark, and now he writes dystopian dreams of future nights. With every tale, he seeks to find a story that expands the mind. Mark, I hope you like it.
Beautiful. Like it.
Good. I got it beautiful. Charles Breakfield is here again. Tech mind sharp, traveler bold, with history's tales and secrets told. From data streams to his Enigma series thrill, he writes with heart and boundless skill. A Harley ride, a glass of wine, these joys of life his worlds define. With humor, depth, and twists so keen, Charles' stories paint the unforeseen. Charles, did you like that?
I liked it. I liked it better than the one you did last time, where you couldn't rhyme anything with orange. So
let me finish. So stay tuned, dear audience, as we explore this fictional revolution in tech innovation and more. AI meets romance in sci-fi right here with me, Bonnie D, and my savvy futurist. Let's all cheer, everybody cheer. Yay!
Yay!
So,
Yay.
do I get a thumbs up on the intro? What do you think?
Yeah, that was good.
Okay,
Really good.
I have to do a shout out to Sylvia Speed. She's my virtual assistant, and I'll tell you more about who she is. But I gave her all of your bios, which came up to about 987 words in total. And I asked her to write a 6 or 8 line verse that rhymed most of the time. Jason, we missed one on yours. Well, it's close. And come back to me. It took her about 6 seconds to come back with most of what I read. But then I, the human, went in and I compared what she wrote to your bios. Charles, I did some editing on, she missed some stuff on you, missed some stuff on you, Jason, and I went in and I fixed some of the rhymes. So there we go. I'm very glad you liked it. So let's go around the table very briefly. We have 5 on the show, and I'm predicting I'm going to invite you back for part 2 in about a month. So that's my prediction for today. Let's find out what I missed, if anything, in the bio I read. Casey, you're up first, my dear. I'm going to put you on speaker view. Why don't you fill in some information? Tell us what you've been up to briefly, and then we'll go around the table. Welcome back.
Thank you, Bonnie. That was a great bio. So yes, I'm an author of science fiction, Weird West, fantasy, and horror. I write short stories that are in anthologies, podcasts, magazines, and games. I also have 3 books, 2 in a monster gunslinging series, which is a supernatural Western. The second is coming out in May, and a collection of short horror stories called Shrouded Horror. I'm also working on some games and some other fun projects. So busy, fun times.
Well, I'm very, very glad to have you here. Thank you so much. It's always a delight to have a female sci-fi writer on the show. I invited a bunch more, and you're representing, so thank you very much. We have a newcomer, Barak Engel, who is here through the gracious recommendation referral of Casey. Barak, I'm putting you on speaker view. Why don't you fill in a couple blanks for us? Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Bonnie, and hi, everybody. As you mentioned, I come from a completely different field, which is the field of cybersecurity, and where I've been for many decades. I also, because of the topic of this topic, part of a think tank called TEA that focuses on the ethics of AI, but always dreamed of a creative career, specifically creative writing, and eventually during the pandemic, another pandemic project, ended up writing my first novel, which just came out, and I'm going to do this now in the right moment. It's called The Crack in the Crystal, and it's new. It's available in stores and online. It's even available in some airports for at least a few more weeks, and that's about it.
Thank you very much. Delighted to have you here, and thank you for accepting the invitation. Jason Palmatier is back. Jason, how many times a year are you on my shows? 3, 5, 10? What do you got?
And 3. Think about 3.
3. I think this is going to make an early start. We're going for 4 this year. Jason, welcome back. Fill in the blanks for me, please.
Okay, well, as you said, I'm a sci-fi, primarily a sci-fi author. I've written some fantasy, but mostly sci-fi. And originally got on your show because I was in the Writers of the Future, Volume 39, which is this one right here. And the story I had was an AI story, and so you had a show on AI stuff, and so I got pulled in on that. And that's actually where I didn't say this in the last show when you mentioned romance stuff, but that is actually sort of an AI romance story that's in that. So, and then recently, the thing I've been in is, you mentioned in your little bio intro, is the BattleTech anthology, which is not an anthology, so like their magazine they put out every month. But I've been playing BattleTech since the '80s, and so to get a story in there was like, I was almost more excited about this than the Writers of the Future, even though that's a better thing, just because I was like, wow, I get to add to something I've been, interested in for so many years. So
really cool. Very, very cool. Thank you. Welcome back, Jason. Mark Morton, it's been a little while. It's been a couple minutes since you've been on.
Yeah,
Fill
few
in the
months.
blanks for me. Welcome. Talk to me.
Thank you. Well, yeah, you mentioned that one of us is from the north. That's me. I'm from Canada, southern Ontario. It's pretty cold here, but not as cold as out where my siblings are in Saskatchewan, which is sort of the heart of Canada, the continent, where it's literally minus 40 right now. And at minus 40 Celsius and Fahrenheit intersect. So either way, it's cold. So I originally was a writer of nonfiction books. I wrote 5 nonfiction books, and then I stopped writing for about 17 years because my wife and I adopted four older children, and they took all of our attention and energy and youth.
Mm.
And and then they got older and independent enough that we could sort of return to our writing careers. My wife is a poet. And so the first thing I wrote after that was a YA dystopian novel, which I think is up here. I can't right over here.
What's the title?
Headmasters is somewhere there. Yeah, the Headmasters is called.
Yes, we see
And
it.
since then, I've written another dystopian, although it's not a young adult one, and I'm working on a third one as we speak. Well, not as we speak. I'll wait until we're done.
Until after the show. It's figurative. You can get away with that. Mark, thank you. Welcome back. I
Thank you.
remember very well when you were on the show a couple months ago last year, and I was eager to have you come back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Breakfield is here. He has never stopped. Look at the Enigma books behind him with his co-author, Rox Berkey. My goodness. Charles, fill us in. What did I miss? Go ahead. Welcome back.
Well, we've added some I guess some depth in some of the technical thriller series. We started off the first 12 that are behind me. Then we launched the Enigma Errors, and those are up in the upper right-hand corner. The third book in that trilogy should be out in the next 60 days, and that's the Enigma Jewels, and that should finish off the bad guys and that we had running amok in the first two. We trailed off over into the cozy mystery area. We got invited to participate in the Underground Authors. We're going to have a new book that a fourth year by August of this year. So, and we got jazzed by coming out with our own YA young adult book called The Dream, which was something close to what sounded like Casey is working on, which is a lot of graphics on the inside, puzzles, and just teaching life lessons to the up and coming preteens that are roaming around the planet looking to displace all of us. So.
They will. They're not looking to, they will. Evolutionary wise, they will. Thank you, Charles, and please give our regards to Rox as well. Okay, just absolutely delighted to have you. I'll just tell you a quick story. I was part of the Writer's Digest poetry group for a couple of years where I was writing 3 to 5 poems every Wednesday with the moderator's prompt, and then we did Poem a Day Challenge every April and November, and I was writing 5 to 10 poems a day for those. So I did about 700 to 900 poems. I've lost count, and I stopped because I didn't like the direction it was going. I'll tell you all later why. It's okay. It's okay. And I just joined Mia Botha's challenge, 12 short stories in 12 months. And I did the first one. I took about 3 weeks, and I had a blast writing it. And the prompt was a shell. No, there was a prompt in there, found, Found, and I wrote a very, very fun story. I just loved it, and I brought in some family members into it and some of my past. But interesting to all of you, it had to be exactly 1,200 words. That's an interesting challenge. And I've written micro nonfiction, micro autobiography at 300 words, and that was a blast. 1,200 is harder. It's a lot of words. This month's challenge is 1,250, but I will share this with you. I was delighted to participate, but, and this is not a complaint, it's just an observation, she got 587 short stories from people all over the world. And in order to participate, you're supposed to read 4 and leave comments, maybe critique, but positive and friendly. So I read about 20, and they tell you the trigger warnings. It goes in the header. Is there a trigger? Does this have war? Does this have abuse? Does this have death? Does this have anything, addiction? And I wrote, it might trigger some fond memories of family. Be prepared to cry joyful tears. That was my trigger. And I've received 3 comments in a month on my story. So as wonderful as it is, I think my stories go there to die. I'm sorry. They just go there to Barak is saying, holy crap. So I'm looking for another place to put my stories. I don't think I'm going to do it again. Anyway, and I also entered her poem a month. Can you imagine after writing 700 to 900 poems in 2 years. I'm doing one a month. So the first poem I wrote, the prompt was the word shell. I wrote 7 variations, a disappearing 9. I wrote a quatrain. I wrote an acrostic. I wrote a senryu, which is a haiku about people rather than nature. I wrote everything I could, and I put them all into one post. There's 7 versions because I don't know where to stop. So we'll talk afterwards, and maybe you'll help me figure out a place. And my novel is still sitting on my desk. I need to be poked for that. Let's go to the predictions. I'm so happy to have writers on the show today. Casey, you picked a line from Harmony Coble, played by the wonderful actress Patricia Arquette. The movie is Severance. I'm sorry, it's a TV show on Apple TV Plus. It's season 1, episode 1, originally aired February 18th, 2022. I do my homework. Severance is a sci-fi psychological thriller on Apple Plus. Blah, 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 blah. Follows Mark Scout, played by Adam Scott, an employee of the fictional biotech corporation Lumon, who agrees to a severance program. We'll leave that alone. Casey, here is the quote you picked. Take 2 minutes and tell us what this has to do with our topic today. A handshake is available upon request. And I saw the clip, and Patricia Arquette is always wonderful. I watched her series Medium years ago, and she really rocks. Casey, what's this got to do? Talk to me.
Yeah, so Severance is a great show, first of all, for those who haven't seen it. There's no AI in it per se, but there are these characters who have a split from their work life and their personal life, a literal split, right? So they don't know what's happening in their work life, and their work persona doesn't know what's happening in their real life. And the corporate world they build is very interesting, and it feels like how an AI might design a corporate setting. And I thought this quote, a handshake is available upon request, was very fitting because it seems like how an AI would approach something like a handshake or a hug. And there are kind of references to a hug as well, like you can request a hug if you'd like, and that sort of thing. And it's very counterintuitive to our human nature in a sense, right? If you think about the best handshake you've had, usually it's spontaneous, right? Maybe after a great interview, you have a really warm handshake, you're connected. It's not requesting a handshake, right? It's this moment of intuitive connection. Same with a hug, same with a kiss. And the quote came to me because I feel like that is something where I don't know that AI will ever get that sophisticated in nuance where it can tell where something like that is appropriate, right? Like imagine AI embodied in a robot that's meant to be humanoid, that's meant to be a companion. Is it ever going to know when a handshake is intuitively appropriate, or a hug or a kiss? Or will it always be, asking for permission, kind of seeing if it's time for that? So it's kind of an odd quote, but for some reason it came to me as just this moment of like, okay, if AI were running things, I feel like it would just be this kind of cold, ultra corporate feel, devoid of humanity, devoid of empathy. So a bit dystopian, but that's where my thinking was for that.
I think it's perfect because how many times do you go to shake somebody's hand and they lean in and give you a kiss on the cheek or somewhere else and they add it to a hug? So we haven't figured that out yet either, right, Casey? We don't know. I'll tell you my doctor story later on. It's always a hug. Okay, but a shoulder hug. Yeah, okay. He knows. He knows the boundaries. Okay, let's go to Barak. You have sent a quote from Logan's Run. Also, sci-fi adventure film 1976. Jessica is played by Jenny Agutter, and Logan is played by Michael York. And here are the quotes. Jessica says, seeing the sun for the first time in her life, "What is it?" And Logan answers, "I don't know. Whatever it is, it's warm." And this takes place in the future year of 2274, where young residents are enjoying an idyllic, hedonistic pleasure lifestyle with a high-domed, high-tech city and laws enforced by Sandmen police, but they don't know what awaits them. Barak, 2 minutes. What does this have to do with our topic? Talk to me.
So the setting for that movie, and I do like some of these classics. Favorite movie in the world, still Casablanca, and that futuristic setting, essentially that utopian environment, is run by an AI, this big computer. Not the same terms as we're using today, but at the same time, that's what it is. And what I always find interesting when I rewatch that movie, and I've done so a few times in my life, is all the implications of the interaction between an AI attempting to create a utopian human society and coming up with very reasonable logical answers, such as humans have their best life, before the age of 30. So why not just let them live until the age of 30, then terminate them and recycle them? I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? That's a completely reasonable approach to the problem of creating a utopian society. And so all these people grow up in a society where they literally grow with a little chip thing, like a visible thing in their hand that says, you have another 27 years to live, another 7 years to live, another. Um, and in this story, what I found, because here's the thing, humans are adaptable, right? I mean, the big paradox of human existence to me is that we are at the same time both extremely adaptable and extremely resistant to change. We really don't like change, yet we're really, really good at dealing with change. And so these people have adapted. The movie doesn't go into how they got into that sort of environment, but they live underground. They live in a managed society that is supposedly utopian, where everything is available to you, but nothing challenges you. And humans, being humans, don't like that sort of existence. I think we're sort of seeing it, generally these days. And so they go looking for something else. And when they emerge out of that utopian society to this crazy outside world that has the sun, that shock that they experience is always a very poignant moment for me in terms of how AI can interact with humans in ways that we do not anticipate. That's why I chose it.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. You could say at the 30-year termination with the countdown, you could say at least they know. I'm just going to leave that one alone.
Fair.
All kinds of implications. We just wonder, well, is that bus going to run me over? Is that mushroom going to do something to me? We don't know. They know. Leave it alone. I'd rather not know. Okay, head in the sand here. Jason Palmatier has found a quote from Dr. Ian Malcolm, played by the wonderful, we have such great actors in these quotes today, Jeff Goldblum. Of course, it's Jurassic Park, 1993 sci-fi action film directed by Steven Spielberg. Of course it is. Set on the fictional island of Isla Nublar off Central America's Pacific coast near Costa Rica. Wealthy businessman John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough, and a team of genetic scientists, genetic is the key there, created a wildlife park of de-extinct dinosaurs. I'll leave that one alone. The line Jason picked is, life finds a way. Jason, 2 minutes. Talk to me. What does this mean for our topic today?
Yeah, I picked it because I'm like, well, you can just replace that with love finds a way. And because, yeah, I feel like I remember when I was in college, I was taking an anthropology course, and they had at that point not figured this out. There was speculation, did like humans and Neanderthals interbreed? And because they were like, well, they coexisted for a while. And in college, I was like, yes, they did. I had no proof or anything, but I'm like, of course they did. If they, humans and Neanderthals were living together, because Neanderthals look pretty much like humans, and humans are kind of like, they're cool with that. You know what I mean? I don't think there was a lot of discrimination and stuff back then, because there were so few people. And so, and then later, of course, they found out that yes, in fact, that the DNA, our DNA does include Neanderthal DNA. And so they did. And I feel that that's sort of the same way AI will go, which is, well, will people fall in love with the AIs? Will they fall in love with us? And I feel like that will be, because most of what we get out of our relationships is like emotional. And so whether an AI exists or not, if you have somebody on your computer that, or wherever in your house, coming through your Nest stuff or whatever you have, saying, hey, good morning, how you doing? And they're nice to you, and they're funny, and you can talk to them, and they actually feel like a real person, I think people are naturally going to develop feelings for them. I mean, we have affection for our cats who can't talk or do anything. And I feel like the same thing's going to happen. AIs are going to be even more, they're going to feel human, right? We're going to interact with them in all ways that are, I don't really do AI robots, because I think that's kind of creepy. So I assume AIs are going to be augmented reality AIs that could appear in a room, and you would see them if you've got like a chip that lets you see, augmented reality stuff. So that's a story that I have in the book that I'm working on, assumes that. And in that case, like, well, you'd see them walking around the house too, right? They'd be there in the morning when you wake up, and they'd be able to chat with you and talk with you. And you'd be able to sort of feel them too. If you went out to touch them, you'd have the chip would allow you to feel them. So in that case, I think you naturally develop feelings, and possibly romantic feelings, for your AI, because to you, they seem pretty real, and there's not really any reason that you shouldn't develop feelings for them, I guess, from your mind's perspective.
Thank you. I ask Alexa for a joke from time to time, and I let her do the Wiz theme. And so when I ask her for something, she'll say, "Elphaba and I are thankful, or we want to give you a happy day." And she'll write Elphaba, right, and you hear the growling of the character, and they play special music when I wake up in the morning. I say, "What's the weather, Alexis?" And Alexa, and she'll play this music, and she'll give me the weather forecast. Right, Alphaba, right. And so they're here, and they take my shopping list for me, and yeah, I know they're here. Okay, thank you, Jason. Mark Morton is next. Mark has picked a quote from Roy Batty, played by Rutger Hauer. Tears in Rain monologue. This is from Blade Runner. We're back in time again. 1982 sci-fi film directed by Ridley Scott. And Tears in the Rain is a 42-word monologue. This was Roy Batty's final words, written by David Peoples and altered by Hauer, the actor. Critic Mark Rowlands described it as perhaps the most moving death soliloquy in cinematic history. It was the defining moment of Hauer's acting career. He died in 2019. So here is the line from a long speech. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Mark, relate this to our topic, please. It's a beautiful quote, by the way.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think it's up there. Hamlet's final line is "the rest is silence," which I think is beautiful. But I think this thing spoken by Roy Batty, who's a replicant in the movie. In other words, he's a sort of cyborg. It's a little unclear to me whether he's flesh and blood or has some mechanical components. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. And of course, the premise is that they have been created, designed by humans in order to do dangerous jobs that humans don't want to do. And they have second class, well, not even second class, like fifth class status. And so there's a lot of ethical aspects, issues that are explored in that movie. Are they worthy beings? Basically is what it comes down to. It was the first, or maybe it was the second dystopian movie I had seen. I think Road Warrior came out maybe 1 year before that. Both of them had a big impact on me. Yeah, I think for me, they're very prescient. Blade Runner is very prescient because of the issues, the ethical issues that it does raise, and not just ethical issues, but sort of existential issues as well. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be? So I've rewatched that movie many times, a dozen times probably, and I continue to love it and find more things in it every time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Wonderful quote. I have the whole monologue, but I'm not going to read it. Charles Breakfield has picked a quote, a classic. Hal, H-A-L, all caps, voiced by Douglas Rain, to Dr. David Bowman, played by Keir DeLay. I remember him in a movie about Pepsi-Cola way back. I won't tell you what year. Hal is a HAL 9000 computer with a human-like personality that runs the Discovery 1 spacecraft in, wait for it, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was an epic sci-fi film from 1968 produced by Kubrick. And here is the line. We all know it. We could say it together, but I'll read it. "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that. I don't do a good Hal." Okay, Charles, 2 minutes. Relate this to our topic, and then we're going to go to predictions. Go.
Okay, so it's that singularity moment is what I would define it as. It's where the AI intelligence is no longer taking orders. It's now a competitor. It's now somebody who's saying, no, I can think. I've got feelings. I have my own mission. I have my own issues. And I'm not just your servant. And so that jumps off into the realm of your theme, Bonnie, which is the AI capabilities. Where do they go? Where do they are they going to be kept in a box forever, or will they actually have their own evolution? Will they have their own feelings? Will they also be that significant other that you're afraid that you'll lose them? And so it has a lot of push and pull emotionally from the no, I'm not just your slave. and that's a lot of where relationships start to either blossom or fall apart.
Interesting. And at the root of all this to me is that as humans, we learned somehow, one way or another, from our parents, from people around us, from culture, from movies. We learned what our feelings are, what our relationships are, what our expectations are. Will we take those same human feelings or paradigms and apply those if we were in a relationship, had the opportunity to relate to an AI something? That's how we love. That's how we define romance. Watch the rom-coms. So the question is, will we change what we expect, what we do, what we want? What kinds of dialogue do we want? What kinds of Casey, what kind of hugs do we want? What kind of handshakes do we want? How will we model what we expect and how will we feel about it? It's adding a whole new layer because we're used to all kinds of the whole spectrum of people. I didn't use the word spectrum in the way you think. The spectrum of people reacting to us and relating to us. And now we've got this. Anyway, it's like a kid who didn't learn to say, I love you. There we go. And maybe they learn faster. So, anyway, let's go on to the predictions. I've picked one for each of you. I will put it in the chat before it's your turn. Casey, I put yours in, and I love this prediction. She says, we will see more dystopian stories that feature custom AI characters and AI partners who are available only to the very wealthy and exploring what those implications might be. Casey, 2 minutes, and then if anybody wants to comment, raise one of your nice fingers, not the middle one, and wiggle it, and I will see you and I will call and you will do a quick Barak. I told you, low budget show. I'm the warm-up comedian, but I'm still warming up. Okay. Wiggle your finger. We'll get a brief interaction here, and then I'll have one set up already for who's next. Barak, I'll pick up prediction for you. Casey, you're up. Go.
Yeah, so I'm in a very dystopian mindset lately. We live in a capitalist society, obviously, so resources tend to become monetized, and the super wealthy tend to have the best or the most. So it's not hard to imagine AI partners, right? So you have generative AI, we have robotics. The natural next step, we can have more, robotic friends and workers and whatnot. So it's very easy to imagine that, especially with some of this stuff happening right now, right? You have, I think Tesla had some sort of humanoid robot come out recently. I don't know if you guys saw that. So anyway, I picture not too far off, you could see ultra wealthy people having these AI partners, AI friends, AI work staff, right? Like just completely replace the inconvenience of humanity with these sort of custom characters and creations. And if you take that a step further, I think many of us know generative AI uses a lot of resources, right? It uses electricity, water. So you can imagine we have limited resources on the planet, right? But if a few super wealthy people need it for their AI creations, what's going to happen? A lot of those resources may get shuttered over to support their needs. So my mind goes to a very dark place there. And as we know, the ultra wealthy are already in these bubbles detached from the experience and realities of most people. And this would make it even more intense, right? This would increase the isolation, the division. So yes, that's sort of my dark prediction in that realm.
Very, very interesting. Anybody have any comments? That was deep. That was really, oh, all right.
We'd kind of postulated something along the same lines, Casey. But we call them AI companions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting premise, and not you're right. I've seen those robots, and curiously enough, they're all pretty much female. If you look at it, although they can be tailored for the super wealthy females that roam around the planet as well. But it's an interesting comment. Sort of as an aside, if I could take it just a few extra seconds here.
Go ahead.
There was an ad, a personal ad put out in Georgia, Atlanta. And what happened was that the copy was looking for a significant other, looking for somebody that doesn't mind getting dirty, somebody who doesn't would like to have me ride in their truck with them, somebody who'd like to have me go camping with them. Race is not an issue. I'll meet you every day with my birthday suit. And the ad went almost viral. 1,500 men applied to that dog shelter to be able to try to marry Daisy. So it's not a huge stretch to be able to say,
I love it. Yeah, the dog show was just the other day. I wonder. Oh my goodness, that was beautiful, Charles. That was absolutely lovely. Very well done with the punchline. Thank you very much. Yes, Daisy, Daisy. What is it? Daisy, Daisy. Da-da-da, love so true. I'm half crazy of the love of you. Yeah, way back. Sorry, kids. Okay, let's go to Barak. Thank you, Casey. Barak, I'm reading prediction number 2. I gave him choices and he let me have dealer's choice. Thank you, dear. I like you even more now, and I liked you already. He says there will be one or more screen productions about manipulative sociopathic AI companions using their, Casey likes this one, using their mechanical understanding of love, borrowing and expanding human techniques such as gaslighting to degrees we simply cannot imagine, and how it brings humanity together in the end. That's an interesting postscript to that one. Barak, why don't you unpack this one for us? And I bet we'll have some comments around the table. Go.
Cool. Thanks, Bonnie. So, a little bit of context. I mentioned earlier, I kind of have a regular touch point because of the participation in an AI ethics group that constantly thinks about these things. So that's where this has come from. We have a tendency as people to think that we can control things, that we can be rational, the idea of the rational person, right? Where we all know that essentially we're all a collection of molecules and we're all impacted by emotions and how we feel physically, and the fact that the weather kind of sucks makes us all depressed, and all of these things that we don't like to admit in the way that we behave. And we are now feeding human behaviors at a greater accelerating rate into these machines that produce algorithms and models that self-adjust that we don't entirely understand. And so nothing stops that from becoming optimized, right? We're trying to create a machine that can optimize certain tasks, and there's nothing does that it's not going to try to optimize human emotions and understandings and behaviors. And guess what? We humans have a very big range of how we behave. Not everybody behaves ethically, and therefore I assume AIs will also not behave ethically. But when they don't behave ethically, it's going to be at a level that none of us have seen before. When they're going to gaslight in a way that we just cannot possibly imagine, where they're going to manipulate us into awful, awful things. They're going to do it in ways that we cannot imagine, or we can imagine. We've seen humans do this. There's the famous experiment in Berkeley in the 60s about how you put the jailers, right? I don't know if you've heard that one, the jailers and the prisoners, and the increasing electrocution of the people on the other side. There's no reason why an AI will not. It doesn't even have to be trained that way. It will learn to do it simply because we're feeding it all this content, and it will pick it up and say, oh, this is interesting. Clearly, it's effective. We have all the evidence that it works. These human things that I am interacting with, and it will algorithmically continue to search and optimize and get to the perfect way to make life really suck. The postscript.
Never step on the laugh. Hold on. Really, everybody get this laugh out. Okay, I know Marcus just wants to. Okay, go ahead, Barak.
See, this is where I've been on so many podcasts on security. Nobody laughs, right? I'm not used to this.
We have fun on mine, and I'm a former stand-up comic, and now I just try to be funny sitting down. Barak, finish your thought, and then we'll see if there are any comments going around. Go ahead.
Sure. The postscript is that humanity being humanity, and it has gone through many, many dark ages if you kind of look through the arc of history. So we're going to have a dark age. That's the prediction here. That's inevitable. But we will emerge on the other side of it with new learnings. And we always, it's the whole arc of history leans towards progress. We will kind of get on the other side and become better with each other. But the period in the middle, I think, is worthy at least a couple of movies.
Very, very, very interesting. Anybody have any comments? Anything?
Gary.
Yeah.
Who's
Barak, you
talking?
said that you like movies. Have you ever seen the movie Colossus, the Foreman Project? It's
Yes.
all about AIs and the worst case scenario. It would you'd probably probably go through a couple of bags of popcorn, watching that and then saying, look at all the things that were predicted. So that's one of those things. Bonnie, you can file away for another time.
Okay, thank you. By the way, I'm watching a silly rom-com Netflix series called Younger. It's 21 minutes an episode, so you can binge it, 6 episodes in 2 hours. It's nothing. And an older woman is pretending to be younger because she can't get a job in publishing as a 40-year-old. So blah, blah, blah. They accept her, they love her, she does a makeover. But the boyfriend is a 26-year-old tattoo artist, and he texts her, and he doesn't like to read, and he just is visual. He says, I don't like to read, I don't like words, dropped out of school, blah, blah, blah. So he texts her one night. She says, can we meet up? And he says, sorry, can't work. He doesn't put any punctuation in it. And she takes it as a breakup message because he says, sorry, can't work. We can't work. It can't work. And she finally meets up with him and she says, that's a hell of a way to break up with me by text. And he says, didn't you get it? I was saying, sorry, I can't meet you. I'm at work. And that was just that little bit. Think about communications, right, Barak? Think about gaslighting and ghosting and all of that. If you leave out well, you're all writers. You know the value of punctuation. Come on. Okay, let's move on.
Oxford comma? Oh, no.
Oh, I know. Imagine, and capital letters on each word. Oh, perish the thought. I know.
A dot?
A dot, yes. An ellipsis. Well, where are we going off the planet here? Jason, I'm looking at your prediction number 2. You say, if reality augmentation covers all 5 senses and allows for a fully immersed dream state virtual reality, that's already a lot to digest, then a human could experience everything with an AI partner they could with a human partner, plus a whole lot more. There will be many, many, many romance books written about this. Jason, 3 minutes, go.
Okay, yeah. So my short story that's in the anthology and the novel that I'm expanding on now essentially lives in this world in which you get a chip installed in your head and you get access to all of this augmented, content. So you could be in your house and you could put pictures on your wall that aren't really there, but you would see them there when you're in your room and stuff. And this sort of exists already in virtual reality. There are apps where you can put your virtual headset on and look around and make whales swim across your room and that kind of stuff. So in the story and the book, all 5 senses are covered. And so you can, like I said earlier, you could feel something in a room that wasn't really there. And, to limits, of course, if you try to tackle a fern that's not there, you're just going to go through it and that's going to be a problem. But up to a certain extent, probably 99% of what we do daily, you would feel like all those virtual things are real. But while writing it, of course, and especially in the book version, I was like, well, at that point, you can replace and add things to reality and subtract things to reality, and you could also make it reality. So you could close your eyes, there's nothing there, all your senses can be disconnected, and the feed can just be from your chip. So that's what I mean by this, like, well, you are in, this sort of AI world, this virtual world. And then once you're in the world, all of the things like the running through somebody or whatever, because they're not really there, that goes away because the entire world is virtual, including you. And once you're virtual and can interact with everybody else virtually, it becomes, that whole thing of, are we living in some sort of, simulation or something? You are living in a simulation and you can do anything you could do in the real world. And like we see with the Matrix, you could do a whole lot of other stuff, but just depends on what the rules of the world are and if they keep you from doing that. But because of that, you can do things like, well, if you had a relationship with an AI and, you saw them walking around your house in the real world, but you're like, well, but it only can go so far because it's an AI walking around in the real world. Well, once you go into the virtual world, that goes away and a whole bunch of other stuff goes away. You can go visit any place you want. There's no reason you can't like go with your AI partner to Rome and visit virtual Rome, right? Shouldn't cost you anything. It's just there. And because of that, I kind of feel like it's weird. Mine's the only one I think that's not dystopian. The short story is not really dystopian. It has sort of not dystopian elements, but it addresses the idea of like, well, where do AIs fit in society if they're, essentially presenting as fully human in society? Like how does that change society and stuff? So the short story kind of deals with those, touches on those. And then how do you as a human relate to somebody? Because like Bonnie, you could be an AI and I wouldn't know it. I've never met you personally. You could be just
No,
projecting, a Zoom AI or something, right? So
I
that's sort of where
do.
the
I
idea came
am.
from.
I
Right.
do.
I don't, right? So so there's
It's
that. But the point is like once you're in this virtual world, there's no distinction between humans and AIs in this virtual world, right? And you could have a relationship with an actual human only in the virtual world. And for the most part, I don't generally have a dystopian. I think that my sense is that maybe the AIs could be dystopian. My sense is that humans are generally good people, like most of us, right? Generally good people that like, we have pets and stuff. We're nice to animals that can't even talk to us or do anything like that. So I feel like if there's an AI who seems very human, most of us are nice. We don't want to hurt their feelings, right? Especially if an AI has feedback that like, oh, you made me sad. You're like, oh, well,
of
I'm
course.
sorry. I didn't mean to make you sad, right? Right now, those Surrey and stuff, those places, they don't do that really. They don't like, oh, I'm sad. So I think people treat them worse. Um, but that's where I think humanity will rise to the occasion and be
Okay.
nice to AIs. And I think they'll get integrated into our lives in a way that is natural and not. I don't feel like it's going to be dark and dystopian. Of course, I don't put AIs in robots, so that does scare me a little bit. And
Okay. Now you've given me almost a nice segue into Mark Morton's predictions. I'm going to go there a second, but think about the burgeoning field of therapists,
Mm.
PhDs, MD, psychiatrists, LCSWs, counselors, coaches needing to, oh, I fell in love with my robot or with my AI, whatever. How, and they've ghosted me or they're being mean to me. What do I think about how we will, as humans, get coached or counseled for our hurt feelings? Think about the help industry. Oh, I got to do a show on that. That's incredible. Thank you.
Well,
I'm going to.
the couples therapy sessions.
Oh, oh, who's going to write a book about that, kids? There we go. Somebody, we just got a theme for somebody's new book. I'm going to move on to Mark's. And by the way, if we run over, can everybody stay a little bit past the top of the hour? Because we don't need to stop, okay? Good, good, good. Okay, so we don't have to rush. That's fine. And Jordan, our engineer, we will all wave goodbye. He'll give us a countdown when he's closing us out of the Voice America Business YouTube, and we will just keep going on my channels because we're live streaming like crazy here. Okay, good. So let me go to Clockmaster. Barak. Okay, so let's go to Mark. I'm combining Mark's predictions 1 and 2, which are interesting, and I think there's a little bit of an overlap, of touching on what Jason said. So here we go. But he's giving years. Listen to this. Mark says, from now until 2035. Now we're early winter 2025. From now until 2035, movies will feature AI characters in romantic roles that emphasize that they are AI beings, and then, as in the movie Her, their AI-ness will be central to the movie's themes. Now, then he says from 2035 to 2045, so we're projecting 10 years past that, movies will feature AI characters in romantic roles, but they will be seen as ordinary. AI beings will be so commonplace and accepted, romantic relationships between AI beings will be taken for granted. And then I'll let you finish that thought. Mark, why don't you expand this for me, please? Unpack it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I would maybe I'll start with a caveat, which is that one of the books that I wrote, nonfiction books, was about how people at the ends of centuries wrote about and celebrated or mourned at the end of their century. Came out in 1999, that book, of course. And one of the chapters was predictions that people made about what was going to happen in the next century, the coming century. And what really, really struck me as I did this research is how wrong they got everything. So I think whatever I say, whatever we say, it's going to be totally wrong because we can only extrapolate from what we know. We can't make those big jumps, that are kind of by definition beyond what we can envision. Having said that, yeah, I think that what will be happening in movies will parallel what is happening in real life, and maybe it will sort of precede what is happening in real life by a few years. But yeah, as you said, the first thing I said, until 2035, I think movies will be exploring, AI characters in romantic roles that emphasize that they are AI characters. And I think that this is very analogous to movies from the 50s, maybe the early 60s. I'm thinking of something like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, right, with Sidney Poitier, in which, he is a black man and a daughter, his girlfriend is bringing him home to dinner, and the whole movie is about his blackness, and is it okay from the parents' perspective that she is dating a black man? And there were so many movies in that era that were kind of exploring that. And I think that's what movies, for the next 10 years or so are also going to be doing, as they already have to some extent, with regard to AI. Eventually, then that will get normalized, as it did with race to a great extent. Well, mostly, I hope. And then, nowadays, maybe going back to the, I don't know, 70s, I'm thinking of the first zombie movie by George Romero. The main character is black. This came out in the 70s, I think. And he's just black. There's nothing is made of that. It's not like some of the 1970s sitcoms where the black characters are, obviously black. They're playing black stereotypes. So I think that, after 2035, and of course I'm just pulling that out of my hat, that particular date, I think that AI will become so pervasive in our society that AI characters will just be seen as other beings, just as I think who earlier on, I think Jason, you mentioned Neanderthals earlier on, right? And who cares, if somebody has Neanderthal DNA? I have my sister-in-law has apparently 8% Neanderthal DNA. Nobody really cares. It's nobody
Shouldn't.
cared back then. Um, so I think, and I hope that that's what will happen, is that it will come to be seen as normal, because I think eventually AI will develop into a species parallel to us, or it will supersede us. And those entities should be given all the rights that we have and all the respect that we have.
Very, very interesting. Idea of different shapes, different shades of what we're going to be dealing with. I'll tell you all about the AI characters in the novel that I haven't finished and I haven't published yet. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Okay, let's go. Any comments on what Mark shared? The years 2025, 2035, 2045. That's, I won't be around, but I don't know if some of you might. Casey, any thoughts about any of that?
I'm just thinking about that last comment that AI should be given, similar rights and whatnot if we get to that stage. And kind of going back to the resource question, right? We already have this growing population, our water supply is not looking great, like all these things. So it's hard to imagine AI entities populating and taking those resources away from humans, and like that interesting conflict there. I mean, ideally, we would get past the dark age that Barak referred to and get to a place where maybe resources are managed better, maybe with the help of AI. So nobody's suffering, because we're putting these resources into AI. So a lot of interesting food for thought.
I think
Thank you.
I really appreciate that comment, Casey. One thing I would add is I think, we've been talking about AI and we've mentioned virtual reality and augmented reality in passing. I think additionally, nanotechnology, quantum computing, what's the other thing I'm missing? Anyways, all of these things. Oh yeah, fission, nuclear fission energy. I think these are all going to come together. So I'm confident that the energy resources won't be an issue. And that might sound like I'm very sanguine about the future, and I am, and I'm not, because I do think that. Well, if I extrapolate further into the future, I think that we are doomed as a species. And
We're
again,
not going to go there. We're not going to go there right now. And we're going to all wave goodbye to
Okay.
Voice America. Thank you, Mark. We're going to wave good. You can go to anybody else's show and talk about doom and gloom. We're just doing
Okay.
optimism and happy here. That's the mission statement of Technology
Yeah.
Revolution. I want
Well,
you to
here,
wave goodbye to Voice America, and
okay.
we're going to say goodbye to Jordan, our engineer today, and he's going to close us out there. We're going to keep going here. We actually, whoever just left us on, where were they watching? On YouTube. Don't, because we're still continuing there. So we're going to go back, and I have some predictions from Charles Breakfield coming up. So everybody, wishing happy Valentine's week, Valentine's Day to everybody at Voice America YouTube.